Okay, we'll start with this. Ahead of their big rematch this weekend, Katie Taylor says, "This is my most important fight yet," and she seeks to avenge the loss to Chantel Cameron. Can she do it? At this age, 37 years old, most people feel this might be Katie Taylor's last stand. Katie Taylor herself says, "I'm not thinking about this fight will be my last fight. I'm not thinking about any other outcome other than a win," Taylor told ESPN. "I feel very fresh and good in the gym. I feel I've got plenty of fights left in me. I will retire when I feel the time is right. I've got no intention of hanging the gloves up now. Retirement never came into my mindset after the last fight. It's never good for any fighter to be thinking about retirement going into a fight." Quite right.
Though it is a double-edged sword. We see time and time again in the sport of boxing, some boxers, they don't know when to hang them up. They don't know when to call it a career.
There aren't that many fairy tale endings in the sport of boxing where it's the boxer that retired from the sport and not the sport retiring the boxer.
Whenever they ask Katie Taylor about retirement, she always gives the same answer. Even here and now, coming right off a loss to Chantel Cameron at 37 years old, she's saying the same thing. She is not thinking about retiring, though I would prefer that if she wins this weekend and becomes a two-time undisputed champion, she should retire.
If she pulls a rabbit out of a hat and beats Chantel Cameron, 32 years old from Northampton, who trains in Manchester, outpunched Taylor in Taylor's first professional performance on home soil in Ireland. Taylor from Bray in Ireland, but who trains and lives in Connecticut, is still the undisputed lightweight champion, as Cameron's junior welterweight belts were on the line when they met. Taylor will once again challenge the Englishwoman for her 4 belts, back at the indoor arena in Dublin. I think failure causes you to analyze things a little bit more, and that's been the case for this fight, Taylor said. "I think that's where all the growth happens. When you suffer a loss, you are forced to look at every single factor, and I feel a better boxer than before now. The preparation is better for the rematch, and I feel a lot better going into this fight. I feel in top form, and I am looking forward to showing my best on the actual night. I think everyone could see that I definitely wasn't at my best in the last fight, so I'm looking forward to getting things right for the next one. This camp has been very different. I don't want to expand on it. I fell short on the night. I feel mentally and physically better going into this one. I'm very grateful to get a second chance to make things right in the first fight." We saw Katie Taylor start off by moving lateral, using the ring, and keeping distance between herself and Chantel in order to walk Chantel into counters, walk her into counter shots. But that didn't work because Chantel's actually taller and longer than Katie.
Katie couldn't box her from the outside.
Not effectively. All that did was make Katie Taylor a sitting duck, allowing Chantel to gain momentum by walking her down and shooting straight punches from the outside coming in. Punches that were actually lending and causing visible damage.
Thus, boxing her from the outside, that's not the way to go.
"I've prepared for whatever comes my way. She has a high work rate, and she will bring that to the table on the night," Taylor said. "It would be one of the best wins of my career to beat Cameron at the weekend. This one feels special. I'm looking forward to revenge, I guess, and I love going into these fights where people are doubting me. I'm not saying there's any extra pressure this time around, because every fight has pressure, but this is probably my most important fight yet in my career. This is a must-win fight. Rematches are often won by the fighter who is more adaptable, by the fighter who can change. But you could say that about either Katie Taylor or Chantel Cameron. So who's able to make the more significant changes? And what is it that Katie Taylor has to do to win this rematch?"
Boxing from the outside on the move, trying to, that made Katie Taylor a sitting duck in the early goings of her fight with Chantel Cameron.
It wasn't until Katie Taylor started crowding the pocket and letting go of those rapid-fire combinations that she was really able to have any success. Thus, in the rematch, if she is to win it, she's got to try to force those exchanges, force them to happen on her terms. Instead of retreating and looking to keep distance from Chantel,
she has to stay with her, not dissimilar from how Dimitri Bivol stayed with Zurdo Ramirez.
Katie Taylor may be 5 or 6 years older than Chantel Cameron, but she still has the faster hands mid-range to inside. She still has that advantage in the pocket and in the exchange, and that's where she had the most success. So she's got to try to stay with Chantel Cameron instead of boxing from the outside and looking to set up counters. Katie Taylor does not have the length to do that effectively, not with Chantel. Instead, she should stay with her, in and out, on the balls of her feet, bouncing in and out of striking distance, putting 3 and 4 punch combinations together.
That will allow Katie to dictate the action as opposed to letting Chantel walk you down and having the action happen on her terms. You take the fight to her.
So when those exchanges happen, they're happening on Katie's terms and not Chantel. When Katie wants them to happen and not Chantel, as well as using angles.
Pivots.
Instead of being way out there on the outside, allowing Chantel to gain momentum while she's walking you down, you get to the side of her, hit her in the blind spots.
Caveat to this strategy is it will require a lot of energy from Katie, who's several years older than Chantel and could burn out initiating the action.
We have seen Katie Taylor tire before. Pushing the pace and initiating the exchanges could cause her to gas out again, so it is easier said than done.
So we'll see what happens in this weekend's fight.
Men's lightweight news. George Cambodia's promoter, Lou DeBellia, believes Lomachenko should be next. And by all accounts, all signs point to a Vasyl Lomachenko versus George Kambosos showdown early next year in Australia. After taking some time off, the former unified champion got back in the win column, albeit not impressively, although it was controversial. They're talking about George, they're not talking about Loma. A victory over Maxie Hughes seems to be just enough to push Kambosos back into the big fight picture. According to DeBellia, his current promoter, Vasyl Lomachenko is next up for his man in 2024. Yes, revealed DeBellia to BoxingScene.com when asked if Lomachenko is on the agenda. Early spring, Lomachenko, at least to a certain degree, suffered the same fate as Kambosos, coming up short against Haney a few months ago. His loss, nevertheless, was much more competitive. At the age of 35, the former pound-for-pound star appears to still have a ton left in the tank. Beating the Ukrainian is hard enough if Cambodia isn't on his A-game. If that listless, apathetic Kambosos shows up, DeBellia knows he won't stand much of a chance in their supposed showdown. I think George will be better this fight, continued DeBellia. I expect more from him. I expect that he will get beat and he will get dominated by Vasyl Lomachenko no matter what version of him shows up, because even the worst version of Vasyl Lomachenko is still better than the best version of George Cambodia.
We've talked about the potentiality of this matchup and how next year it could be for the newly vacated IBF title on the premise that both George and Vasyl Lomachenko are number 1 and number 2 currently in the IBF's ranked standings. Devin Haney,
he's still got the IBF title, but he's not coming back down to 135, and we all know that. Currently, his father, Bill Haney, made an appearance on The Boxing Voice detailing a potential fight at 147, a potential fight with former champion Keith Thurman. So clearly, moving back down to 135.
it's not realistic. It was never realistic. And how many times in a build-up did I tell all of you that win or lose with Vasyl Lomachenko, Devin's not staying there. He's not staying at 135. He will move up, and he did. His next fight is against Regis Prograis.
And it is only a matter of time before he vacates the remaining titles he still has there. The IBF title among them that I anticipate will be on the line in the upcoming Vasyl Lomachenko versus George Kambosos fight. To that, boxing insider Rick Glacier stated, being told Loma versus Kambosos will be in April in Australia, city to be determined, sounds like a top-rank in-house eliminator. Winner to fight Shakur Stevenson if Shakur re-signs with Top Rank. Sounds like the plan to me. After the Shakur debacle versus De Los Santos, there won't be much free agency interest in Shakur anyways, for the type of money that Shakur gets, the type of money that Shakur wants, and I'm sure the top-rank executives recognize that. There has been some talk the last couple of days of Shakur Stevenson's contract with Top Rank being up, and how he himself stated he's open to working with anyone. While he might be, is anyone willing to pay him what he has been paid by Top Rank? This kid's been getting in the neighborhood of $2 to $3 million a fight.
How many promotional outfits out there that would have fights for him at 135, where he's currently campaigning? How many promoters out there can afford to pay him that?
And how many want to behind last week's performance, last week's stinker? Shakur Stevenson, God bless him, he's a quality operator, but he's hardly a crowd pleaser. So what you're going to have is a kid whose style doesn't always satiate the fight fans, but who still wants a lot of money. A lot of money, fight by fight. Where would he go? Would he go to Matchroom? Matchroom doesn't have very many, if any, bodies at 135.
Golden Boy, they've got William Zepeda, but they've got William Zepeda and who else?
PBC has considerably more action and more bodies at 135 than some others. They've got Isaac Cruz and Edwin De Los Santos if Shakur wanted to run it back with him. Obviously, Gervonta Davis is also on that side of things. But you know what they don't have? They don't have a broadcast partner. They don't have network money coming in to finance big cash guarantees like the ones that Shakur Stevenson's been getting.
They may have Gervonta Davis. They may have Isaac Cruz and Edwin De Los Santos and Frank Martin. But what they don't have is a network broadcast partner giving them an annual budget.
I saw Floyd Mayweather in attendance for Shakur Stevenson's last fight alongside Andre Ward and Terrence Crawford, and I thought that curious. What is Floyd doing there? Is he just there to support Shakur, or is he there for something more? If Shakur has it in his head, he's going to leave Top Rank to go over to the PBC?
Your fights are going to end up behind the paywall, and most people are not going to pay to climb over it.
If I could state the obvious, a performance like last week's performance, yeah, that doesn't lend itself towards Shakur becoming a big box office attraction.
You think that people are going to want to have to pay $80 per fight to see fights like that, performances like that? I don't think so.
I feel like he should stick it out with Top Rank. I feel that Top Rank has a plan for him.
If he stays there, maybe he fights the winner of Lomachenko versus Kambosos. But if you leave, if you go somewhere else, if you go to the PBC,
you may not fight that often. And when you do fight, it's going to be on pay-per-view. Pay-per-views that probably don't sell very much.
Won't sell very much, and you won't make but so much fighting on them.
Thus, I feel Shakur Stevenson should stick it out with Top Rank in any event. Immediately after his fight, he was asked about fighting Emmanuel Navarette, to which he responded, he just got a draw with Robson Conceição, seemingly not that receptive to the idea. He just got a draw with Robson Conceição, Stevenson said. I actually thought Robson was winning besides the knockdowns. Every time he got knocked down, he kind of messed up. But it was a lot of times he was connecting with a lot of shots. So I saw a close fight. I can't say who won. I saw a close fight, and on that much I will agree. Robson Conceição versus Emmanuel Navarette, it was an even fight, a close fight. Robson was having some success, as well as Emmanuel.
Bob says he might look to do a rematch.
I think their rematch will attract a lot of attention. It was one of the best fights of the year. I had it 6 rounds to 6, and therefore I gave Navarette the victory by 2 points. The other 2 judges had it 7-5, Conceição, and with the 2 points for the knockdowns, it was a draw.
Emmanuel's fight, while the co-main event, was a lot more aesthetically pleasing than the main event, than Shakur Stevenson's fight. In fact, during Stevenson's fight, there were people in the crowd chanting Emmanuel Navarette's name on the predication that his fight was a lot more entertaining than Shakur's, even though Shakur was the one headlining.
Shakur Stevenson doesn't seem that receptive to fighting Emmanuel, though he could do a lot worse than fight Emmanuel Navarette. He just put on a crowd-pleasing performance, and he's developing a reputation for doing that.
It's not a fight that he should be so dismissive of, though ultimately it's neither here nor there, because I don't think Emmanuel is on the eve of moving up. If nothing else, Bob is exploring the possibility of a rematch with Emmanuel and Robeson, and they just signed O'Shaquie Foster, WBC champion, at that same weight. I don't think they signed him for no reason. I think they want to do a unification match. So fighting Shakur, that may not be in Emmanuel's immediate future. Shakur himself stated, like I said, I'll fight anybody for sure, but as of right now, I want to go back to the drawing board, critique myself, look at myself, see where I went wrong, and work on my game.
He needs to.
Seems to be Top Rank's plan, to put the winner of George Kambosos versus Vasyl Lomachenko in the ring with Shakur Stevenson at some point next year, which could end up being a unification match for both the IBF and WBC titles. The WBC title Shakur just won. Shakur Stevenson, who said, I gotta stop being in the gym all the time. That's how you cause injuries. In my previous video, we talked about what Bob said, that Shakur Stevenson, maybe he trains a little bit too hard with too much intensity in between fights, that he turns every drill and every training session into a war. Shakur himself stated, I had a bad performance. I gotta take some breaks. I gotta stop being in the gym all the time. That's how you cause injuries. That's how your body gets a little fatigued.
I won't begrudge Shakur his work ethic. There are worse things to be accused of in the sport of boxing than being a workaholic, than being a gym rat. It's the intensity that he needs to tweak.
There's nothing wrong with trying to keep yourself match fit or close to match fit from one fight to the next in between fights, but you don't want to give it your all, not all the time. Repeat drills, repeating exercises can cause stress fractures.
It's all about balance. Balancing the intensity of what it is you're doing from one fight to the next, leaving a little something extra for when you actually do have a fight coming up and you're going into a fight camp.
In the past, he still found time to enjoy his holiday season, while also making frequent trips to the gym. This time around, Stevenson plans on staying far away from the gym for as long as possible. I've got to take a little break and relax a little bit.
It's all about balance. You certainly don't want to let yourself go in between fights, balloon in weight in between fights. There are worse things to accuse Shakur of than being a workaholic, than being a gym rat.
I think he should stay put. I think he should stick it out with Top Rank, see about fighting the winner of Lomachenko versus Kambosos. That's what I think he should do.
But that's not up to me. It's up to him.